Right now, millions of people are sitting at their computers just staring at job boards and feeling completely, utterly disqualified.
Oh, absolutely. It's a universal anxiety.
You know the exact feeling.
Yeah.
You find a listing that sounds incredibly promising, right?
Yeah.
The pay is right, the location is perfect, and then you scroll down to the requirements section.
And there's the brick wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're hit with this wall,
Mm.
a demand for a highly specific bachelor's degree or a mandate for like 3 to 5 years of proprietary industry experience. And of course, they want a flawlessly polished portfolio.
Right, which just feels impossible when you're starting out.
It's the absolute definition of a systemic bottleneck.
Hmm.
And staring down the barrel of that kind of job hunt, I mean, it can induce a paralyzing amount of anxiety for you. You get hit with this massive wave of information overload. It feels like every single door into the modern economy is dead-bolted from the inside.
It creates a really profound sense of cognitive dissonance for the job seeker,
Mhm.
you know? Well, on one hand, you turn on the news and hear endless reports about widespread labor shortages, right? A booming economy.
Yeah, nobody wants to work, that whole narrative.
Exactly. But on the other hand, your lived reality consists of sending out dozens of applications and hearing absolute silence.
Crickets.
Total crickets. And the natural psychological response to that is to internalize the silence as a personal failure. You start to believe that lacking a specific piece of paper or, a 5-year history in a niche field essentially renders you unemployable.
Which is terrifying. But according to the stack of research and materials we're unpacking today, that narrative is completely inverted in certain sectors of the economy.
It really is.
So let's establish the mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at a radical paradigm shift proposed by our sources. The premise is that some of the most critical, foundational industries in the country are actively searching for people who have absolutely zero experience.
None at all.
Right. In fact, our sources suggest that for some of these roles, your blank resume isn't a liability. It is your greatest asset.
This is a structural shift in how we need to view the labor market. We have to differentiate between industries that operate on legacy credentialism.
Meaning, like using past experience to guess if you'll be good at the job.
Exactly. Legacy credentialism uses the past as a proxy. But we need to contrast that with industries operating on immediate operational necessity.
I like that phrase, immediate operational necessity.
The jobs we are analyzing today exist in environments where immediate availability, raw physical or emotional stamina, and a willingness to be trained from scratch are currently trading at a massive premium.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to play devil's advocate right out of the gate here. When someone hears no experience required, the immediate cynical reaction is, right, because it's a trap.
Sure, people assume it's a scam or a dead end.
Exactly. The assumption is that these are dead-end roles, designed to chew people up and spit them out. But our mission today is to look way beyond that surface-level assumption. We're going to examine the hidden potential within 7 specific types of roles highlighted in our source material.
And it's not just a list of jobs.
No, not at all. We want to figure out why these industries are so desperate for a blank slate, how these roles actually function day to day, and most importantly, how they can serve as highly effective stepping stones to serious long-term careers. Think of the job market less like an exclusive club with a strict dress code and more like a bustling highway with multiple on-ramps.
I love that analogy.
You just need to know which on-ramps have no toll booths.
It's crucial to approach this without that traditional white-collar bias, The modern economy is a highly complex, interconnected machine. The roles we're going to dissect aren't just arbitrary jobs.
They're essential.
Right. They're the fundamental load-bearing pillars of our society. And understanding the mechanics of why these specific sectors hire the way they do gives you, the job seeker, a massive strategic advantage.
So let's get right into the machinery of it all. We're going to start by looking at the logistical backbone of our entire modern economy.
The world of moving things from point A to point B.
Exactly. If you think about the defining characteristic of the last decade, it is the rise of the convenience economy. We expect physical goods to manifest at our front door within 24 hours of clicking a button on our phones.
Sometimes even same day.
Yeah, it's wild. But to make that modern magic happen, there is an invisible, massive physical infrastructure. Our sources point to 2 distinct roles that power this: the people who pack the boxes inside the facilities and the people who drive those boxes to your house.
Let's start inside the building with number 7 on the list, the warehouse associate.
Right. Warehouses constantly need people to pick orders, pack products, load shipments, and organize inventory. But why zero experience?
Well, to understand why a massive, highly optimized fulfillment center doesn't care about your resume, you have to understand the evolution of industrial engineering.
Okay, hit me.
Over the last century, we've moved toward hyper-systematization. Every single second inside a modern warehouse is tracked, optimized, and dictated by an algorithmic system.
So they don't want you to think outside the box,
Yeah.
literally.
Exactly. The warehouse doesn't need you to bring creative problem-solving skills to the table regarding how a box should be packed. They have already spent tens of millions of dollars developing the exact, mathematically perfect method for packing that specific box.
Wait, I have to challenge that framing because it sounds incredibly bleak.
It can sound that way, yes.
If they don't want creative problem solving, isn't blank slate just corporate speak for we want someone who won't question our grueling quotas? Are they really looking for trainability or just, I don't know, blind compliance to the algorithm?
It's a very valid challenge, and the reality sits right on the edge of that distinction. From an operational standpoint, it really is about standardization and safety.
Safety, how so?
If you come into a modern fulfillment center with 5 years of experience from a different, older warehouse, you are bringing muscle memory. You're bringing habits that contradict their new proprietary system. You might lift a certain way or route your cart a certain way, which throws off their highly calibrated metrics, or worse, causes a safety hazard.
So they prefer someone brand new.
Yes. They prefer a candidate with zero experience because it is vastly easier to teach a new habit than to break an old one. They're looking for behavioral malleability.
You are a fresh canvas for their operational masterpiece. But let's strip away the corporate jargon and talk about the physical reality for a second.
The physical toll is real.
Our sources are very clear about the trade-off happening here. You are bypassing the traditional academic barriers to entry, sure, but you are paying the toll in sheer biomechanical output.
It's hard work.
We are talking about hours upon hours of standing, walking miles across concrete floors, and repeatedly lifting heavy items. It is fundamentally an athletic event.
Precisely. The barrier to entry isn't intellectual. It is strictly physical and stamina-based. The modern warehouse worker is subjected to an incredibly high physical load.
So what does this mean for the worker? Are you basically just getting paid to do a daily workout?
Well, understanding this gives the job seeker agency. If you are someone who thrives on physical movement, who perhaps detests the sedentary reality of sitting at a desk for 8 hours.
Which a lot of people do hate.
Right. If you hate sitting, this environment aligns with your natural disposition, and the source material highlights a massive upside to this physical toll.
The money.
Yes, the sheer scale of these operations means there are tremendous opportunities for immediate overtime pay.
Right. The financial feedback loop is immediate. You aren't waiting for a yearly bonus. You can scale your income by simply scaling your physical output.
Exactly.
But what about the long term? If it's just endless lifting, where's the career progression?
That is the hidden pipeline. Because the physical demands are so high, turnover at the base level is substantial. Many people simply realize they cannot handle the biomechanical toll.
It's just too hard on the knees and back.
Yeah, but if you can, and if you demonstrate baseline reliability, meaning you show up on time and execute the proprietary system as taught, you become incredibly valuable to the facility.
You outlast the high turnover.
Exactly. You are suddenly an insider. From there, the pathways to upward mobility open up rapidly. You transition from the person packing the box to the person operating the heavy machinery, like a forklift.
Or managing people.
Right. Or you move into inventory auditing, or you become a shift lid managing a floor of new associates. You have essentially bypassed the need for a degree in supply chain management by learning the logistics ecosystem from the ground up.
Okay, so that is the highly controlled, climate-managed machine inside the building. Let's pivot to the second half of this logistical equation. Number 6 on the list.
Yeah.
The delivery driver.
The final mile.
Right. The box leaves the algorithmic perfection of the warehouse and enters the absolute chaos of the outside world. And our sources point out this incredible fact. Despite the immense liability of handing someone the keys to a delivery vehicle, companies are desperate for drivers.
They really are.
And for many of these roles, you do not need previous professional driving experience.
It is a fascinating juxtaposition. Inside the warehouse, every variable is controlled. On the road, virtually nothing is controlled.
It's the Wild West out there.
It is. Yet, the barrier to entry remains remarkably similar. The requirements outlined in our sources are stripped down to the absolute essentials. You need a valid driver's license, a clean enough driving record to satisfy insurance underwriters, and the ability to strictly follow delivery instructions.
But let's dig into that last point. Following instructions on a delivery route today is very different than it was, say, 20 years ago.
Oh, completely different.
You aren't just looking at a paper map. The algorithm has followed you out of the warehouse. The route is dynamically updated on a device in your vehicle. You are constantly being routed and rerouted based on traffic patterns and delivery windows.
Exactly. And this brings us to a profound shift in the nature of workplace autonomy.
What do you mean?
The text notes that as a driver, you are given a flexible schedule and you escape the watchful eye of a traditional middle manager. You aren't sitting in a cubicle with someone looking over your shoulder.
Right, nobody's breathing down your neck.
Your manager has simply been replaced by an algorithmic dispatch system. You are trading localized micromanagement for spatial isolation, guided by a digital metric.
Which introduces an entirely different kind of psychological load. It sounds freeing at first, right? Just you, the open road, a podcast on the radio.
That sounds ideal.
But the reality is that you are taking on an immense amount of personal responsibility. You are navigating unpredictable traffic, dealing with severe weather, and trying to find a poorly lit address at night, all while the digital clock is ticking down on your delivery window.
It requires a highly specific cognitive profile.
Yeah, you have to be sharp.
The ability to maintain spatial awareness, manage real-time problem solving when a road is suddenly closed, and regulate your own stress levels without the support of a team nearby, it's a massive undertaking.
It really is.
The fact that society classifies this as no experience required is, frankly, a massive underestimation of the cognitive load involved.
I completely agree. So let's zoom out and look at what this means for you, the listener, trying to navigate these options.
Yeah.
We have two jobs powering the convenience economy. Neither requires past experience, but they demand vastly different temperaments.
Very different.
If you crave predictability, order, and are willing to act as a human gear in a highly organized machine, you choose the warehouse. You trade your physical stamina for a controlled environment.
Right.
But if you are highly adaptable, comfortable with isolation, and thrive on solving real-time chaotic problems in the physical world, you get behind the wheel. You are trading that controlled environment for the chaotic reality of the road.
It forces you to audit your own psychological default settings.
It does. It forces the job seeker to stop asking, what job will accept me, and start asking, what kind of environmental stress am I naturally equipped to handle?
And recognizing that distinction is the first step toward building a sustainable career path, rather than just grabbing a temporary paycheck.
Okay, let's transition away from the movement of physical goods entirely. I want to pivot to a sector that trades in something arguably much heavier and vastly more complex.
What's that?
The emotional and mental handling of human beings. We're moving from the realm of physical stamina to the realm of psychological endurance. Let's look at the front lines of human interaction. We're grouping number 5, customer service representative, and number 3, restaurant worker.
This is a crucial conceptual leap. In the logistics sector, the product is a tangible box. In the customer service and hospitality sectors, the product is an emotional state.
Wow, an emotional state.
Yes. You are being paid to manufacture satisfaction, or at the very least, to mitigate frustration.
And the source material highlights just how expansive the customer service field has become. Retail, telecommunications, banking, technology, software. I mean, every single one of these industries desperately needs people to answer questions, troubleshoot issues, and calm down irritated customers.
They can't function without them.
And yet again, the sources emphasize that these roles routinely hire candidates with absolutely zero corporate experience. They provide all the technical training after the hiring date.
To understand why, we have to look at what is actually teachable in a corporate environment.
Right.
A telecommunications company can easily put you through a 2-week training seminar to teach you how to navigate their proprietary billing software, right?
Sure, just clicking buttons on a screen.
They can provide a dense technical manual that explains how to reboot a router. What they cannot teach you, in a seminar or otherwise, is inherent patience.
Right.
They cannot teach you the complex emotional regulation required to remain perfectly calm and empathetic, while a stranger on the other end of the line screams at you because their internet went down during a crucial meeting.
Yes, that's so true. You don't take a college-level seminar on de-escalation tactics for an angry person.
Yep.
That is a skill forged entirely through lived experience. You learn that by managing a busy household, or by mediating intense arguments between siblings, or simply by possessing a high degree of innate empathy developed over a lifetime of complex social interactions.
And corporations have finally realized this. They have recognized that the soft skills of communication and de-escalation are actually the hardest skills to find.
They really are.
Therefore, they hire for the human element, the unteachable empathy, and they train for the technical element. They are effectively strip mining the general population for emotional intelligence.
Strip mining for emotional intelligence. That is a wild way to put it. But let me push back on the reality of the work here. We talk about it like it's this noble pursuit of empathy, but isn't it incredibly draining?
Oh, without a doubt.
The concept of emotional labor, where your actual job requires you to suppress your own authentic feelings of frustration to project a company-mandated calmness. I mean, that takes a massive psychological toll.
It takes an extreme toll. It is a highly specialized form of psychological endurance. You are acting as the emotional shock absorber for a massive corporation.
A shock absorber.
Yeah. When a bank's policy fails, the customer doesn't yell at the CEO, right? They yell at the entry-level representative. You are absorbing the friction of the modern economy.
But the sources do point out a massive, paradigm-shifting upside to this specific role. And it's one that has exploded in recent years. A huge portion of these customer service jobs can now be performed entirely remotely.
It's a game changer.
This is an unprecedented on-ramp into the white-collar world.
The democratization of this work through remote access cannot be overstated. Historically, your employment opportunities were strictly geographically bound.
If you lived in a small town, you were stuck.
Right. If you didn't live near a banking hub, you couldn't work in banking. Now, if you have a stable internet connection and the ability to maintain composure under pressure, you can enter the corporate infrastructure of a major tech or finance firm without ever leaving your living room.
That is incredible.
It is a lifeline for individuals who are geographically isolated or those who have significant caregiving responsibilities at home that prevent a traditional commute.
It fundamentally changes the calculus. You trade your emotional bandwidth for geographic freedom. Now, let's look at the other side of the human interaction coin. Number 3, the restaurant worker.
The visceral, physical front line.
Exactly. If customer service is the digital front line, this is the physical one. Our source material states a universally acknowledged truth. Restaurants are perpetually desperate for reliable staff, from servers and hosts to dishwashers and prep cooks.
The restaurant industry is perhaps the most authentic meritocracy left in the modern economy.
Meritocracy. Why is that? Why would a high-end restaurant not care if you've worked in a restaurant before?
Because the feedback loop in a commercial kitchen is instantaneous and brutal.
You find out real quick if you can hack it.
Exactly. A manager will know within the first 2 hours of your first shift if you possess the necessary traits to survive the environment.
And a resume won't tell them that.
The text explicitly spells out the behavioral traits that actually matter: showing up on time, working relentlessly hard, absorbing new information rapidly, and treating people respectfully under extreme duress.
The big 4.
You either have these traits or you do not. A resume cannot prove them. Only the chaos of a Friday night dinner rush can.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I love that you call it the meritocracy because it's the ultimate proving ground. But I really want to challenge the terminology our society uses to describe these roles.
Okay, let's hear it.
We routinely label both call center representatives and restaurant workers as entry-level, or even more insultingly, unskilled labor. But let's actually analyze the cognitive requirements of the job.
Please do.
Think about managing a chaotic, highly choreographed dance of a 3-hour dinner rush. You are a server. You have 4 different tables. Table 1 has a severe allergy that you must communicate to the kitchen.
High stakes right there.
Right. Table 2 is angry because their drinks are late. Table 3 is celebrating a birthday and requires high energy engagement. Table 4 is ready for the check.
It's a lot to juggle.
You must hold all of these competing high-stakes variables in your working memory simultaneously. Constantly prioritize and reprioritize your physical movements, all while maintaining a welcoming, completely composed facial expression.
What you are describing is a textbook example of high-level executive function.
Exactly.
It requires situational awareness, advanced crisis management, and complex social calculus. We as a society conflate the term entry-level, meaning a job with low barriers to initial hiring, with the term easy.
It's a massive societal blind spot.
It really is.
So I ask you, the listener, to seriously consider this paradox, which actually requires more sophisticated human stamina. Operating a forklift in a quiet warehouse for 8 hours, or managing the competing psychological demands of 20 different strangers during a dinner rush.
That's a tough call.
The psychological endurance required to thrive in hospitality is off the charts.
And that exact endurance is what makes it such a powerful stepping stone. If you can manage the chaos of a commercial kitchen, or effectively de-escalate furious customers for 8 hours a day, you are actively demonstrating crisis management and leadership skills that transfer to almost any other industry.
Which explains the upward mobility.
Right. This is why the upward mobility in hospitality is so rapid. The material notes that if you simply perform the baseline expectations reliably, you are almost immediately targeted for shift leader or management roles.
It's so fast.
You aren't waiting for a yearly review. You are promoted the moment you prove you can handle the fire.
Okay, we've covered the fast-paced world of moving physical goods and the highly emotional, high-stress world of managing human interactions. Let's pivot to our third conceptual category.
Where are we heading?
We are going to look at jobs that require a totally different, almost contradictory temperament. We're moving away from constant movement and reaction and looking at roles defined by absolute stillness, profound vigilance, and the willingness to get your hands dirty building the physical architecture of our world.
The observation and foundation roles.
Exactly. Let's explore number 4, the security guard, and number 2, the construction laborer.
This is a fascinating transition because we are moving into the realm of foundational support and risk mitigation. Let's begin with the security sector.
Okay.
The text outlines that private security companies are constantly hiring workers to protect buildings, retail spaces, warehouses, and active construction sites. The core responsibilities involve monitoring surveillance systems, controlling access points, documenting incidents, and enforcing safety protocols.
It is the absolute antithesis of the restaurant rush.
It is.
In a restaurant, your value is derived from your constant frantic motion and reaction. In security, your value is derived from your proactive stillness. You are literally being paid for your physical presence and your vigilance.
Exactly. The core economic function of a security guard is deterrence. The primary goal is that nothing happens.
You want a boring shift.
Right. You are a localized risk mitigation asset. However, what is vital to pull from our source material is the massive caveat regarding the no experience claim in this specific sector.
Right, because this is where the concept of a blank slate meets legal reality. You may not need a resume full of past security experience, but the text makes it explicitly clear that depending on your jurisdiction and the specific site, you will likely need a state-issued security license and a rigorous background check.
This is a crucial distinction for the job seeker. In this industry, no experience required absolutely does not mean no vetting required.
Because of the liability.
Exactly. When a company hires you to guard a facility, they are handing you the keys to the castle. They are placing you in a position of ultimate trust regarding their physical assets.
So the background check is everything.
Therefore, the background check replaces the traditional resume as the primary gatekeeper. They aren't looking into your past to see if you have a degree. They are looking into your past to ensure you do not have a history of exploiting trust or engaging in volatile behavior.
It is a character audit rather than a skills audit.
Precisely. And while the hours can be long, and the reality of the work can involve long stretches of profound boredom punctuated by moments of necessary action.
The upside is still significant.
Yes. The material notes that the security industry is highly stratified. Once you get your foot in the door, pass the initial vetting, and prove your baseline reliability, there are clear, formalized pathways to move into higher responsibility positions.
Like what?
You can transition into specialized armed details, loss prevention management, or even corporate security analysis. You are entering a massive shadow infrastructure of private safety.
Now, let's pivot from the people who protect the buildings to the people who actually build them. Number 2 on our list. Our source material points to the construction laborer, and it includes a very telling phrase.
What's that?
It says, here's one that many people overlook.
I genuinely think that is the understatement of the entire document.
It is criminally overlooked by the modern job seeker. And it's primarily because society has attached a deep, unwarranted stigma to the title of laborer.
Yeah, people look down on it.
For decades, we have pushed a cultural narrative that physical labor is a dead end, right? A punishment for those who couldn't succeed in academia. But the economic reality of the construction industry paints a completely different picture.
Construction companies are desperate for entry-level workers to handle site cleanup, material transport, and basic equipment preparation. You are the foundational support for the entire site. And you don't need years of experience because the core skills are taught strictly on the job.
But there is a catch. There is a massive catch. The prerequisite that makes or breaks you in this industry is that you must possess profound psychological humility.
Humility is key.
You must be willing to listen, obey safety protocols instantly, and learn quietly from the experienced workers around you.
What you are describing is the modern resurrection of the traditional apprenticeship model.
Oh, and that makes sense.
In the vast majority of white-collar industries, the concept of a true apprenticeship is dead. You are expected to show up on day one, fully formed, armed with a degree that supposedly proves your competence.
Right, they expect you to know everything already.
But on a construction site, the medieval model of knowledge transfer is alive and well. As a laborer, you are quite literally being paid to assist and observe master craftsmen.
That is exactly the reframe we need. When I look at the role of a construction laborer, I don't see a manual laborer. I see a paid student.
Paid student, I like that.
Think about the sheer economics of this. You are getting a paycheck to sweep up sawdust and carry heavy tools. But while you were doing that, you were standing 3 feet away from a master electrician wiring a complex panel.
Or a master plumber routing a commercial system.
Right, or an HVAC technician calibrating a rooftop unit. You are getting an all-access front-row ticket to watch how highly lucrative specialized trades operate in real time.
And that educational proximity is the entire point. The source material explicitly states that construction is far more than just an entry-level job. It is a direct, deliberate pipeline into the skilled trades.
Which are desperate for people, right?
Yes. The industry is currently facing a massive demographic crisis, often referred to as the silver tsunami.
The silver tsunami.
The master craftsmen are retiring, and there is a catastrophic shortage of young talent to replace them. Therefore, the people running these sites are actively looking for laborers who show aptitude and reliability, with the explicit goal of pulling them up into specialized roles.
But hold on, let's inject a dose of reality here. We can romanticize the idea of the paid student, but the day-to-day reality is backbreaking.
It's very tough.
You are out in the blistering heat or freezing cold carrying 80-pound bags of cement. Is the promise of a future trade enough to justify that immediate physical suffering?
It is an incredibly demanding physical toll, there is no denying that, but it is an educational toll, not just a physical one, and the economic payoff is staggering.
Tell me about the payoff.
The text notes that these specialized skills become extremely valuable over time. We are talking about careers like welders, commercial plumbers, specialized electricians that routinely pay 6-figure salaries.
Wow.
They often significantly outpace the earning potential of jobs requiring a 4-year university degree, and you secure that trajectory not by taking on massive student loan debt, but simply by being willing to carry materials, swallow your pride, and listen to the veterans on the site.
So it's an investment.
It is the ultimate Trojan horse into long-term wealth building.
It requires immense humility at the start.
Yeah.
You are unequivocally the lowest person on the totem pole, doing the jobs nobody else wants to do. But if you have the foresight to view that heavy lifting as a necessary tuition for a masterclass in trade skills, the upward trajectory is practically limitless.
Absolutely.
Okay, we are rounding the corner to the climax of this deep dive. We have explored the physical hustle of logistics, the emotional crucible of customer service and hospitality, and the vigilant foundation of security and construction.
We've covered a lot.
Now, we're going to examine a sector that perfectly embodies the ultimate transition from a desperate first job to a stable, forever career. Number 1 on our list. And we are going to tie this directly into the underlying psychology of the job hunt itself. Let's look at healthcare support workers.
When we look at healthcare, we are looking at the behemoth of the American economy. It is a massive, incredibly complex industry.
And it's recession-proof, right?
Crucially, yes. It is almost entirely insulated from normal economic cycles. Regardless of whether there is a recession, a boom, or a tech crash, human bodies inevitably break down and require care.
Yeah, that's just a fact of life.
Consequently, the healthcare sector has a perpetual, insatiable demand for personnel.
Our sources point out that healthcare facilities desperately need support workers. We are talking about roles that involve helping patients with fundamental daily activities, assisting medical professionals, or simply supporting the massive operational logistics of keeping a hospital running.
But there's a catch here, too.
Yes, there is a very critical flashing red light distinction made in the text that we absolutely must unpack. The source explicitly warns, the important thing to understand is that not every healthcare job is entry-level.
This is a vital nuance because healthcare is arguably the most heavily regulated and legally scrutinized industry in the world.
For good reason.
Exactly. The barrier to entry for clinical roles is intentionally astronomical. You cannot simply walk off the street and into an operating room based on a good attitude.
Obviously not.
Clinical positions require highly specific, grueling education, rigorous board certifications, and strict state licensing.
So if it's so heavily guarded, where is the actual on-ramp for someone with no experience? How do you penetrate that fortress?
The on-ramp is found in the foundational support roles, where the intense demand for labor forces facilities to create their own pipelines.
Creating their own pipelines. I like that.
Hospitals and care facilities will allow you to enter with very limited or zero experience under the explicit, formalized agreement that you will complete the required training or certification concurrently with your employment.
Give me an example. What does that actually look like on day one?
It looks like starting as a dietary aide, managing patient nutrition logistics. It looks like working as a patient transporter, physically moving patients between wards and radiology.
Basically just moving beds around.
Right, or in many states, it looks like starting as an uncertified nursing assistant. The facility is in such desperate need of staff that they will actively sponsor you.
Sponsor you. Like financially.
Yes. They will pay for your classes, provide the clinical hours on site, and guide you through the state certification process to become a certified nursing assistant, or CNA.
It is the construction laborer model, but heavily formalized and regulated. But let me challenge this. How does a job seeker know that a hospital will actually follow through and train them, rather than just keeping them stuck in the low-wage support role forever?
The structural desperation of the healthcare system forces their hand. They don't have a choice. The shortage of registered nurses and clinical staff is so acute that hospitals must grow their own talent internally.
So they need you to move up.
Exactly. They use these entry-level support roles as a massive screening mechanism. If you show up, demonstrate deep empathy for patients, and show an aptitude for medical protocols, they want to retain you and upgrade your skills.
It is the ultimate upward trajectory. The industry is so vast and the demand is so endless that you can legitimately step up the ladder rung by rung.
That's the beauty of it.
You start as a transporter. The hospital pays for your CNA certification. You work as a CNA. They offer tuition reimbursement for your LPN or RN degree. You transition into nursing and eventually into administration. You can map out a 40-year, highly lucrative career in an essential industry, all starting from an entry-level position where your only initial qualification was a willingness to care for vulnerable people and a willingness to learn.
Which brings us perfectly to the final and perhaps most critical element of our source material, the bonus tip.
Ah, yes, the bonus tip.
We've talked extensively about where these jobs are. Now we need to discuss how to actually secure them. The text includes a tip that addresses the fundamental psychological barrier of the modern job hunt.
This is where we need to talk about the psychology of applying for jobs. The text says, here's something most people don't talk about. Getting hired isn't only about having experience.
Such an important quote.
The sources state that employers across all these sectors are actively hunting for 4 highly specific traits: reliability, availability, a willingness to learn, and professionalism.
Let's deeply analyze the central mistake most job seekers make, which the text explicitly calls out.
The resume mistake.
Right. When you are feeling that intense anxiety and information overload we discussed at the very beginning of this deep dive, your brain enters a state of panic. And the natural psychological defense mechanism against the fear of rejection is to cast the widest, most generic net possible.
Exactly. You build one heavily padded, jargon-filled resume that lists every single thing you have ever done since high school, and you essentially use a digital shotgun to blast it out to 100 different companies on a job board.
Hoping anyone will bite.
You're playing a pure numbers game.
And the source material explicitly advises against this panic-induced strategy. It states, instead of sending the exact same resume to 100 companies, focus on jobs where your current skills actually match what the employer needs.
But wait, this is where the cognitive dissonance hits the job seeker. We have been conditioned by society, by high school guidance counselors, and by the internet to believe that a resume must be a comprehensive historical document.
A permanent record of sorts.
Yeah. We are terrified of leaving white space on the page. We are terrified that if we don't list our objective statement and our proficiency in Microsoft Word, we look empty. Stripping a resume down feels incredibly vulnerable.
It feels vulnerable, but it is strategically necessary. We have just spent an hour defining what the employers in these specific sectors actually need.
Let's recap what they need.
The warehouse manager needs pure physical stamina and a willingness to follow an algorithm. The restaurant manager needs punctuality, hustle, and a good attitude under fire. The customer service center needs profound, unshakable patience. The construction foreman needs safety awareness and the humility to listen.
So they don't care about your high school debate club.
When that manager is staring at a stack of 50 applications, they are not looking for a complex historical document of your life. They do not care about your objective statement. They are a person in pain looking for an immediate solution to their operational problem today.
That is the phrase right there. Radical alignment.
Radical alignment, yes.
If a restaurant manager needs a reliable worker, and you hand them a resume that clearly simply highlights your punctuality, your ability to handle fast-paced environments, and your professional demeanor, you have instantly solved their problem.
You've made their day.
It doesn't matter if your past job title was cashier or stay-at-home parent or dog walker. You have translated your lived experience into their operational language.
And the text gives one final piercing piece of advice. Make sure your resume is simple, clear, and easy to understand.
Keep it simple.
Complex, densely formatted, jargon-filled resumes are very often a smokescreen. Employers hiring for these entry-level, high-turnover roles view complexity as a potential liability. They want absolute clarity.
What are they looking for?
They want to look at a piece of paper and have 3 questions answered immediately. Will you show up on time? Will you try hard? And will you let us teach you our system?
Don't bury the lead. If your absolute greatest asset for a remote customer service job is that you are incredibly patient and have mediated conflicts your whole life, make that crystal clear at the very top of the page. Do not hide it beneath a list of irrelevant software proficiencies.
Exactly. Put the most relevant thing first.
So what does this all mean? If we bring this massive conversation all the way back to you, the listener, sitting there navigating this deeply frustrating, seemingly locked out job market, it means your attitude, your present mindset, is your actual resume.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it.
An employer running a healthcare facility or managing a chaotic construction site isn't sitting in their office hoping to find someone who already knows everything. In fact, as we've learned today, sometimes prior knowledge is a distinct negative because they have to spend time forcing you to unlearn bad habits.
Right. They want a blank slate.
What they're desperately hoping for, what they're actively hunting for, is someone who simply won't quit when the work gets physically exhausting or emotionally draining. They want someone who is eager to be molded.
It represents a profound shift in personal agency. You are no longer passively waiting for a specific degree or a certification to validate your worth to the economy.
You're taking control.
You are validating yourself in real time through your present actions, your flexibility, and your mindset. You are offering them the most valuable commodity in the modern workforce, a reliable, trainable human being.
Let's bring this all together and recap the massive amount of ground we've covered today. We have moved entirely away from the traditional rigid staircase of a career path and explored 7 distinct entry points into the foundational machinery of our economy.
It's been quite a journey.
We looked at the physical hustle, trading raw biomechanical stamina for immediate entry, and the potential for massive overtime inside the algorithmic world of the warehouse.
The logistics engine.
We examined the algorithmic road, trading a controlled indoor environment for spatial isolation, and the complex cognitive load of navigating the outside world as a delivery driver.
The final mile.
We dissected the emotional de-escalator, leveraging innate patience, and the democratization of remote work to absorb the friction of the corporate world from your living room.
Customer service from home.
We stepped into the crucible of the commercial kitchen where resumes burn up in the heat of the dinner rush, and instantaneous upward mobility is granted to those who can manage chaos and demonstrate true executive function.
The pure meritocracy of the restaurant.
We looked at the vanguard of trust, where the security industry prioritizes deep character vetting and the psychology of deterrence over past skills.
Keeping things safe and boring.
We explored the modern apprentice, where the profound humility of sweeping floors on a construction site serves as a direct paid pipeline to highly lucrative, 6-figure skilled trades.
The paid student model.
And finally, we examined the essential caregiver, the path to lifelong stability in the heavily guarded healthcare industry, made possible by facilities desperate enough to sponsor your continuous education.
The core takeaway from all of our socioeconomic analysis today is vital to keep in perspective. None of these pathways automatically guarantee that you will be hired the second you apply.
Right, there are no magic bullets.
The job market remains a market, subject to local supply, demand, and timing. However, these specific sectors represent prime targets where the traditional barriers to entry have been deliberately lowered.
The gates are open.
But perhaps the most important psychological reminder the text leaves us with is this. Your first job does not have to be your forever job. The goal isn't to find the perfect career on day one. Sometimes the goal is simply to break the inertia.
Just get moving.
You just need that initial opportunity to get started, to generate some economic momentum, and to prove your baseline reliability to the market.
It's not about finding the final destination today. It's simply about getting onto the highway. The momentum itself changes your perspective.
It changes everything.
Which brings me to a final lingering thought for you to mull over as you close this deep dive and look back at your own job hunt. We started this entire conversation talking about the crippling anxiety of crafting the perfect historical resume and the feeling of being locked out by rigid, traditional career expectations.
The anxiety is real.
But if the true underlying keys to getting hired fast in the most essential industries in our country are simply being reliable, being available, possessing the humility to listen, and demonstrating respect under pressure.
Which is exactly what we've seen.
Right. If that's the key, why do we spend so much of our lives agonizing over crafting heavily padded resumes that do nothing but detail our past?
That's the big question.
Maybe the absolute best way to prove you are the right person for the job isn't to meticulously document what you've done in the years behind you. Maybe the most powerful thing you can do is to clearly, simply, and confidently demonstrate what you're willing to learn today.
That is a powerful reframing of the entire employment contract.
Thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly expansive deep dive. We've covered a lot of structural ground today.
It's been great.
If this shift in perspective regarding the hidden mechanics of the job market was useful to you, definitely keep an eye out for our next session. We're going to be following up on a thread we uncovered today, taking a hard, data-driven look at the specific jobs and trades that can pay surprisingly high salaries without requiring a traditional college degree.
That'll be a good one.
Until then, take a new look at those job boards, strip down that resume to what really matters, and we will catch you next time.